lightweight, step at a side when we coming. Feel it in your chest, the syllables get pumping. People on the street, they panic and start running. Words on loose leaf sheet, complete coming. I jump on my mind, I summon the rhyme, I'm dumping. Feeling the blind, I promise to let the sun in. Sick of the dark ways, we march to the drumming. Jump when they tell us that they want to see jumping. Dad, I want to see some fist pumping. List something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I have before. Like a stupid standing for what I'm standing for. Like this war's really just a different brand of war. Like it doesn't cater to rich and a fan.
All right, welcome to Wide Awake Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath, your host. My website is wideawakenews.com. You can head over there, and let me pull it up here. We have about 75 people in the chat room. You can go ahead and join them and post questions for myself or for Dex, or join the show, or just chat with like-minded folks. The room is monitored, and it has a nice flow to it because of the monitors keeping trolls out of there. So thank you to the secret monitors. I literally had maybe, 45 seconds before the theme music for the show started, I jumped into the chat room real quick and said I'm running so late. And, of course, Miss C. Gypsy remembered my last Tuesday event of getting in a head-on collision with the biggest coyote in the history of the planet, a $2,300 coyote adventure that I had last Tuesday. So she instantly assumed that I was out getting chased down by its brothers. But no, I had ended up with a really extremely busy day. I had to. I'm in the midst of relocating for a job, and I ended up getting back home to where I currently live in just about enough time to turn on my computer and turn on some heat in the room that I have set up as my studio. It's about 900 degrees below zero, and I have nothing pulled up except a Huffington Post article. But I want to get into it real quick. And first of all, let me summarize the markets of the day. Flat. It's been absolutely dead. Dex and I talked about this a little bit today. In a nutshell, nothing's going to happen this week because we're going into Christmas week and then into New Year's. He's going to be on in just a sec to tell us how he thinks that we might see a little movement in metals in the last week of this year. So we'll get to him in just a second. But a listener sent me a story, and it's from the Huffington Post. I'm not sure if they wrote it or if they pulled it from somebody else, because I haven't had time to go through the whole thing. But the headline says it all. Tax cut raises expectations for economy in 2011. Now, here we go. I mean, this is here we go with the pomp and circumstance. Here we go with the propaganda. First of all, let's be completely honest with what this tax cut really represents. Yes, there is some cut coming. It's a very small percentage in your payroll tax is going to be cut. And it's going to be like the first cut we had in the payroll tax. It's going to amount to maybe, $10, $15 per paycheck. Besides that, the tax cut isn't a cut at all. It is just a continuation of what we've had for the last decade. So how the mainstream media can latch onto this and write these kind of headlines. This is from the AP. Okay, so Huffington Post just reposted it from the AP. The AP is writing these stories. This expectation we're going to have a better employment, we're going to have the better economy in 2011 because we're cutting taxes. We're not cutting taxes. It's the exact same thing that we had for the last decade. The last decade has led to what? 9.8% U3 unemployment. So the idea that suddenly, by this lame duck session of Congress, getting together and deciding to keep everything at status quo, how that can be a boost for the economy is beyond me. Now, I did have time to go down and highlight some of the talking points in this article, and they're basically saying that we're going to end up 2010 at about a 2.5 to 2.8% GDP growth, and it's going to be a better 2011, maybe getting up to the 3.5 mark. Now, these are all economists on Wall Street. These are all economists that work for these big financial institutions. They're not the people who are listening right now who are in the Midwest, which is a war zone. They're not people listening in the Los Angeles, like people in Los Angeles area or in California in general, that's experiencing 50, 60, 70, 80% decrease in housing. And they're certainly not people they're polling in middle America, because suffering abounds in this country. There are anecdotal evidences. There are people who are who are doing well in this recession because maybe they're downsizing or they're just going to, into more a quality-oriented type business. And that's great. I think we need to get back to more of that. But the idea that we give the super rich, the super elite, a great big fat continuation tax, they're the only one that has something to lose here. They're the only ones whose income's actually increasing. According to the census that just came out, more and more of what used to be middle class are now in poverty. So they're saying 3.5% next year. I just want to put some reality on this report. In 80 and 81, when we came out of a severe recession, that was probably the worst recession that we've had between these sandwiching depressions, between the Great Depression in 29 and the one we're in now. We had growth of over 9% out of the backside of that. The growth that came out of that was because of the deindustrialization of this country and the shipping of our manufacturing around the world and Wall Street creating profit off of that. And they managed to do it for 40 years. But guess what? Game over. So a simple tax cut, which isn't a cut, just an extenuation of the same thing, for that to spark sudden growth in a country that has nothing left to base on, no foundation left to grow from, is a farce. And if I can see that, certainly these people writing these articles should be able to see this. All right, to get more in-depth on this subject and on the economy in general and the markets, let's go to our Thursday night, which is now Wednesday night for this week, co-host Dex. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, Charlie and family.
Well, hello. They say hello, and I say hello to you and your family.
You got big plans for the holiday, my man?
Well, I'm going to get my investor hat on because according to the AP, the tax cut that isn't a cut is going to net me massive returns next year. The economy is going to soar to a whopping 3.5%. It's amazing, Dex. Look what you can do for $30 trillion of spending.
Well, I have to admit, since the economy is growing and everything's back on track and the recession is over, we should all be out spending and celebrating. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. We don't have jobs, so how can we spend? Man, that almost slipped my mind. My bad.
Well, according to this article, Dex, we've had the best spending. We're going to end up with the best spending in 2010, the last quarter, going into the new year, the best in 4 years. In the small print at the bottom of the article, it says that it is on the back of the deepest discount gain in the history of keeping record of how far they're deeply discounting their merchandise. They've been tracking this kind of, what are the loss leaders since 1959, and the sales that are generated are completely, for the most part, since they've been tracking it, it's been the biggest percentage of their sales is these loss leaders. The garbage that they put in the flyers that go out, the $125 laptops, or, the $200 flat screens that they lose money on. I'm in the business world. I understand what a loss leader is. These are things you dangle out there so the public will come into your store, and they work great. There's some things you write a loss into when you advertise it, and it works great if you can get the people into your store and then they spend money to buy other things that are not a loss leader. You're willing to sacrifice a little bit of profit. You're willing to sacrifice actually your investment in the inventory as long as they're traditionally coming in and buying other merchandise. That is not happening anymore. And according to the records that are kept, it's the worst it's been since 1959. Sorry.
Well, you hit a button there, Charlie, as far as with that the loss leader merchandise. It's a little bit more than that. It's really garbage, junk merchandise. For the most part, the way they work it is, you're right, that's junk stuff to get people in the store. But the bottom line is, it actually does kind of cost them money, too, because the junk products that get people in the store, those junk products are returned like 99.9% of the time. And that's for real.
Well, even if they're not returned, if you think
about they are. They have a special bin for it in Walmart.
Yeah, and Walmart will take absolutely anything back. And
they have a special bin for it.
Right. They will. Their return policy is they don't even care if you bought it there. But I understand what you're saying, and it's okay with me if we don't talk about Walmart again for the rest of this show, because every time I think of that institution, it drives me insane. The idea that even if we want to count these sales as positive for the economy, the truth of the matter is, until we return to some kind of integrity in this country where we have manufacturing base, and when a product is bought from a store, that it not only benefits the shareholders of that corporation, but it benefits the people who made it. And the people who made it, in order for them to be benefited, need to be in the border of the country that it was sold from. So, all right, we're going to take this break. We'll be right back with Dex the Vulcan from PulseScan72 on YouTube. And almost 100 people in the chat room. If you're listening and you want to join in, go to wideawakenews.com, enter the chat room, and we'll pull questions from there for the rest of the show. All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Wide Awake Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath, your host. I want to say thanks to the between 95 and 100 people bouncing in and out of the chat room, because I did not have time to do a promo vid tonight announcing that the Vulcan was going to be on. I've been trying to do that every day just to give a heads up, and it's really it's a good feeling to me when I see this many people still in the chat room. That means you remember the show and you remember the chat room and you came back. So thanks to everybody who's returning to the show. And if you're the first time you're in the room, or the first or second time, and you're wondering why the aliens are going by, I like to explain this about once a week. If Dex, myself, anybody types the word or says the word bankster in the chat room, it starts this little crazy alien war. And I wish we could affect change just by saying words like bankster. I wish we could watch all these banksters walk off a short pier, but unfortunately we'll have to settle for the alien war. Dex, talking about China, we talked about Chinese-made merchandise, Walmart, the return, the garbage. And the fact of the matter is, I on one of my last videos I put out, I talked about just that, the manufacturing process, where it's built up in some Pacific Rim company and sold back to us, and we buy a bunch of junk. And somebody pointed out, they were an importer, and the stuff that comes in from China in particularly is not junk. And you know what? I have to agree, because in my business we buy a lot of material that it's ridiculous. They might chop down a tree in Oregon and then ship it 12,000 miles, let it drive on a road in China for 500 more miles to a factory, make it into something, drive right back down that road, put it right back on a ship, and drive it 12 more thousand or float it 12 more thousand miles to Seattle, and then ship it across the country for less than we could do it here. But in a lot of cases, it isn't junk. But it isn't junk not because they've developed the manufacturing technology like the United States did over 100 years. They didn't develop the engineering. They're masters at taking what has already been done, we're allowing them to do, take material and items and technology and then reverse engineer it over there and then sell it back to us to our own demise. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the products coming in here? And why have we, over the last 40 years, allowed these Pacific Rim countries to basically gain all this technology in manufacturing and all this technology in engineering on the backs of the greatest industrial engine the world has ever known, which was this country at one time?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. Because all the manufacturing has moved overseas, number one, you can expect that certain types of products are going to be sold to us, and that's the cheap stuff. Everything is cheap. Everything that costs.
Hey, Dex, hold on a sec. Hold on one sec, buddy. Hey, buddy. Hold on one sec. Will you do me a favor? Will you mute your computer screen?
I didn't realize it was making that kind of noise. My bad.
Okay, yeah. Brett just asked me to. Well, he goes, "What's that noise?" He thought we were being invaded. Go ahead.
No. So anyway, the Walmart thing, it is cheap labor. It's cheap sweatshop labor. We already know all that. And the bottom line is they're going to produce cheap products so that they can, have wide margins, profit margins. But the issue is this. More and more manufacturing jobs are going over there, too. It's not just the U.S. The bottom line is that those type of blue-collar jobs are gone, and they're not coming back. We're not going to produce anything in this country at all. that is part of the plan. So you're going to see more layoffs, more jobs going away in 2011. You're going to see the divide between rich and poor get wider than you've ever seen it in our country's history. And there's going to be people literally starving, literally homeless. I mean, you haven't seen anything yet. But on the flip side of that, there's going to be a lot of prosperity in our country also next year. Tremendous prosperity. For the few, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a feeding frenzy. They will make the go-go 90s look poor, especially as the Dow continues to go higher and hits 40,000, and precious metals go through the moon. You see silver at $100, and you see gold at $2,200. I mean, is that not the handwriting on the wall? With all that said, a lot of people are waiting to see the U.S. dollar collapse. The U.S. dollar is not going to collapse. It will never collapse. I don't care what they do. I don't care how much they print. It's not going to collapse. Technically speaking, nothing really collapses. Really want to spend some time and talk about this. Fiat currencies technically don't collapse. They technically don't collapse. It doesn't exist. What happens is they get forced out of being able to declare and control their own resources, natural resources. So the IMF thugs and the World Bank thugs and the UN thugs come in and take over a country, and they use currency to do it. But technically speaking, a currency is no different than using marshmallows as currency. Currency is whatever you want it to be. If it doesn't have any value, it can never lose value. Fiat currency has no value associated to it. It's not backed by gold or silver. It's not even backed by bubble gum. So therefore, if it doesn't have any value, how can it lose value? It can't. So the whole myth about, they're devaluing our currency, they're not devaluing anything. What they're doing is they're bringing the country into complete servitude, just like they do with third world countries. They're bringing the U.S. under the receivership of the quote-unquote New World Order or the new governmental infrastructure, just as I outlined in my latest video. So the U.S. dollar going away, it's not going away. It goes away to replace, to make room for the new currency, but not because it quote-unquote failed. It's a misnomer. That's done
I agree with you, Dex. Yeah. I agree with you, and I kind of want to get into the debate a little bit with you because I've been reading I've read a couple books in the last 2 weeks about the petrodollar and how the petrodollar, especially since the 70s, especially since we closed the gold window, has been the only reason why the dollar, fiat as it may be, has been able to hold status as world reserve currency, and how the threat to the petrodollar is the number one threat to the economic superpower of the United States of America. We'll talk about that, and we'll take calls and comments after this break. This will be the last break of the show, 877-342-6673. We'll be right back with more Wide Awake Radio.
Are you prepared for the future? Do you know how to navigate past the upcoming dangers before it's too late and seize budding opportunities before others do? Forecasting worldwide since 1980, Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal, provides timely and accurate trend forecasts that have earned him the reputation as the most trusted name in trends. The proof is in the hundreds of accurate forecasts Celente has made over the past 30 years. The 1987 stock market crash, the clean food trend, the dot-com bust, the gold bull run, the 2008 credit crisis, and now the crash of 2010. The Trends Journal alerts subscribers to early, subtle signs of crucial trends that will shape our future. It allows readers to anticipate change, recognize the implications, and take proactive strategies. Put your money where your mind is with Gerald Celente's brilliant and indispensable Trends Journal. Go to trendsjournal.com or call 845-331-3500. That's 845-331-3500.
Scientists in England have succeeded in stabilizing the time-honored substance in garlic that destroys harmful bacteria, viruses, molds, yeast, and fungus. This all-natural microbe killer is called Allison C, and it's now available to you in 100% vegetarian capsules only on the New Earth page at rense.com. This powerful broad-spectrum antimicrobial agent is harmless to friendly bacteria and has been concentrated to equal an astonishing 35 cloves of garlic in each vegetarian capsule. Think about it. The antibacterial, antiviral strength of 35 odorless cloves of garlic in just one capsule. Allison C is so effective it even destroys superbug MRSA in test after test. Allison C is truly an incredible advance in natural medicine, and with the threats of bacterial and viral diseases and pandemics growing, no home should be without it. Learn more and order Allison C on the New Earth page at rense.com.
Known worldwide as the most consistently fascinating, informative, and unique program on radio, the Jeff Rense program can be yours to listen to anytime, anywhere, whenever you want to hear it. For pennies a day, our subscribers can download any of Jeff's thousands of programs featuring a treasury of newsmakers, researchers, eyewitnesses, and incredible subjects, all in MP3 commercial-free, crystal-clear 56-bit digital sound, and take these often unforgettable programs with them wherever they go. As a subscriber, you can also listen live at airtime, online, anywhere in the world, or browse through our archives of over 6,000 hours of legendary broadcasts. Subscribe now by taking the link at the top of rense.com and enrich your mind with the most unique panorama of vital information and the best independent, honest journalism in radio. Look for the Subscribe Now link on rense.com and give yourself the knowledge you need for these unprecedented times.
All right, welcome back to Wide Awake Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath, your host. You've 94 people in the chat room. If you'd like to join them, go to wideawakenews.com and get into the chat room. And for the 93 or 4 people in there, you don't have to endure another commercial break because we're not going to take any more. But we will take calls, 877-342-6673. If you want to have a comment for me or for Dex, or if you want to post a question in the chat room or on the phone line, call in, 877-342-6673. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the dollar because, Dex, you brought it up, and I got into the petrodollar a little. And I want to get in – I did a video maybe like a year and a half ago where I talked about, what is money? I mean, we've all grown up with the greenback, and most of us – I was 2 years old when we lost the gold standard. Dex, you and I are about the same age, so you were just a baby as well. Probably a really good-looking baby, though, a good-looking little baby Vulcan. And when they closed that gold window, we were just kids. So all of the money we've ever known, everything we've ever been taught has been the greenback, and that's it. That's it. That is money. Everything else is just something that you purchase with greenbacks. But if you look at money, and you're talking about, the dollar can't collapse because it's fiat to begin with. And I agree with that in one sense, and I don't agree with it in another sense. But I just want to give you my perspective of what is money and why gold and silver bugs are hated, and why it has been used as money for 5,000 years. And the reason is because even back in Native American times, they needed something that was scarce and it took labor to get. So, maybe it was whatever. Maybe it was elk hides, or maybe it was beads or gold nuggets or whatever. They were things that they just weren't laying around everywhere. So you could take your labor, you could expend your labor, being it maybe you're a carpenter, or maybe you're an electrician, or back in the day, maybe you were, a farrier, a horseshoeman, and you would expend your labor, and in order for you to get paid, if you were in a small clan, maybe you did the work for the doctor, and the doctor would return it by work. Well, if you live outside of a small clan, you need a way to take your labor and give it value and put it into something that will hold the value. So you have to get something that is like your labor, rare and valuable. So you have to go to something like a precious metal, because you can't just go around and pick it up off the ground. There's labor that has to go into producing it. So when me as a carpenter, let's say, go across state and I work for somebody who's maybe an electrician, He can't pay me in his electrical services because he's living all the way across the state, or whatever the case may be. Maybe he lives all the way across the country. So he's got to pay me in his own labor, but he can't come and do the work for me, so he's got to give me something that represents his labor. Therefore, we have an exchange in precious metals. It stores your labor, basically. And with the creation of a fiat currency, this has been tried throughout history. It's a way to create wealth without having any labor go into it. And inevitably, after 40 years, on average, these kind of currencies, these kind of stores of wealth, they implode. And it could implode in a hyperinflationary scenario where all of a sudden, there is no real value in the fiat currency, and it is then realized. So they just think by heaping more and more of these worthless items together, it's going to somehow represent value. But inevitably, it'll fall back to a point of having to be represented by something that stores value, i.e. gold and silver. And that is why the people who always want to see profits, always wanted to see a return on investment, and can always manipulate markets by conjecture and by hype. These are the people on Wall Street. They want to have a currency that can float up and down. They want wealth that can be created on sentiment. They don't want wealth that has to actually be produced. Ergo, we lose our manufacturing base. Ergo, we have a dollar that is in the eyes of history. It's in the crosshairs of history to be eradicated. And I think that eventually will happen. I think the only thing that's keeping it alive right now is the world reserve currency. Again, is its connection to oil, because the entire world needs it, and the entire world, up until very, very recently, had no choice other than to trade that precious commodity, that thing that took value to create, in the U.S. dollar. Those days are long gone, because now we have countries coming out saying they don't want to trade in oil anymore. The last one who did it before 2 weeks ago was a guy you saw strung up on TV, Saddam Hussein. Now we have China and Russia coming together saying when we do transactions in oil, we're going to use our own local currencies. This spells the handwriting on the wall for the U.S. dollar. That's my take. Go.
All right. I respect you, and I care for you greatly. You were absolutely correct until you got to the end, and you kind of got caught up in the vines a little bit. You're right in that they definitely, the end result is correct. However, you missed the point of why the dollar exists in the first place. The reason the dollar exists in the first place has nothing to do with it being a currency. The reason the dollar exists in the first place is so that the Federal Reserve can control and consolidate power. That is the only reason why it exists. That is the only reason why fiat currency exists, period. All right? It exists to control all consolidation of power to one central location, or central power, which is, in this case, is a central bank. Okay? Now, as far as history is concerned, no nation fell because of hyperinflation or a depression. You didn't start seeing those things come about until the emergence of the Federal Reserve System. Prior to their coming to power completely in 1913, you didn't really see this widespread phenomenon. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and the UN did not always exist. When we look at the rise and fall of kingdoms in antiquities, it was because of corruption within the governmental bodies itself, whether it be the king, whether it be some other entity within the crown, whether it be because of war, whether it be because of some type of military coup or hostile takeover, had nothing to do with currency. Currency means nothing. Value is associated with it for taxing purposes. They associate value to tax and control the people. People are controlled by tax. That is how you do it. Kingdoms have been controlled through tax. Religious institutions and churches have been stamped out in antiquities because of tax. All right? That is the issue. Hyperinflation does not exist apart from a Federal Reserve System who controls all of the monetary policy. They're the ones who create booms and busts. They're the ones that create crashes and rallies. Take them away, and you have no more hyperinflation or depression. Take them away, and none of these, how do I say this, modern conspiracies exist. All right? The reason why we are so compared to Rome has nothing to do with the currency issue. The reason we're compared to Rome is because of the rampant and vast conspiracy and the rampant abuse within the governmental body. Rome fell because of corruption. It had nothing to do with money. It was corrupt. All of their governmental officials are and were corrupt, just like America.
I agree with that.
It is
Dex,
corruption.
are you up for taking a caller?
Let it rip.
All right, man. And here's the deal. Dex, I know you're on a landline, and sometimes you have trouble hearing me. If you hear me jump in, caller or Dex, try to hold up for a sec, because sometimes we all three end up talking over each other. Bob from Connecticut, are you there?
Yes. I had a quick question for Dex.
Sure.
About 2 or 3 weeks ago, he talked about the fact that he thought that keeping your money in the banks might be a dangerous situation, and he said that I happen to be a trader myself, actually. I'm doing forex now rather than doing futures, but he indicated that if you put your money in a futures account, it's safer than putting it in the bank. Now, the question I had is, these brokers are all putting their money in the bank, so I mean, if you had a bank holiday or something like that, they probably wouldn't be able to get your money out anyway.
So you're asking if it's safer in a trading account or if it's safer in the bank?
Well, yeah, because Dex was saying about 3 weeks ago, I think, he said that, you take your money out of the bank, and he said it'd be a lot better to put it in a futures account, even if you didn't trade. He was saying that, if we did have a bank, I think he was saying, maybe I misinterpreted him, but he was saying that if we did have a bank holiday, your money in your futures account would be a lot safer than it would be to keep it in a commercial bank. And the question I'd be having is, aren't these brokerage firms putting your money in a bank?
Did you get that?
Okay, that's a very good question, a very fair question. Boys and girls, that's why it's very important to watch your mouth and watch what you say, because your words that you speak can come back and bite you in the behind. All right, Here we go. What I am trying to convey to the world is that, yes, the banking system has its tentacles in just about everything, all right? The reason your money is safer, though, in a futures account than it is in, let's say, Bank of America, is because in an issue of insolvency, you will have an easier time getting access to 100% of your money, even if it's more than $250,000 in that trading account, than you will if it's held directly in a Bank of America checking account. And that the reason is because it's handled under different rules and different laws. The clearing firm is what holds your money in a futures account, not Bank of America. It's a clearing firm, and you only have a handful of those. They're very large.
Aren't they insured differently, Dex? Aren't they insured differently as well?
No, there is no insurance because you don't need insurance because of the way they do their money. Everything's held in a segregated account. Creditors can't touch it. Banks can't touch it. No one can touch it. The Pope can't touch it. It's a separate thing. That's why the commodities markets are the only markets on the face of the planet that can actually brag and say, in like the last 100 years, no one who has ever been owed money lost a dime of their money that had it in a futures account. Can't say that with any other account. You can only say that in commodities. And so because a lot of the big brokers now offer those types of trading accounts, futures, and you have stocks and trade forex all in one account, certain amounts of funds have to be segregated, and they do look at that every day, every week, every month. And if anything goes awry with the broker can become insolvent, but your money's not insolvent. Your money is there, every penny of it. No FDIC needed. That is a fact.
Interesting. Bob, does that answer your question?
You can Google it and show me where I'm wrong.
No, you probably are right. As a matter of fact, I asked my own broker about that, and he indicated that, because I trade forex primarily, and he said, well, just what you were saying, Dex, and in addition to which he said that, well, some of your money is being held in foreign currencies, so so you got diversification there too. Thanks a lot for the answer.
Hey,
thanks for calling. I appreciate it.
Thanks for supporting the program.
Thanks, Bob. I'm going to take another call, Dex. This is a fellow talk show host here on Rinse Radio, John Stokes. Are you there?
Oh, Charlie, I am. I so enjoy your time with Dex on the air and just even listen to you every night. I'm just so impressed with your energy and your passion. But I do take exception because for the last 20 years, I have done well, or at least my broker tells me I've done well. I've invested in Whoops bonds, Enron, Lehman Brothers, Florida, and Nevada real estate, and I'm only down 95%.
Well, that's a good argument. Yeah, you've done well. It's also a fact that we've had. If we look at precious metals now, certainly Dex has got the numbers in front of him or in his head on what markets are doing what and how they performed over the last decade. But this is what I do know: the worst investment that you could look at right now is actually the stock market. It's sitting exactly where it was a decade ago, and certainly the cost of living isn't what it was a decade ago.
No, it's not. And you're talking about the commodities. The food thing is the next inflation bubble. That all the players are playing the food market, and it's just a fact of life. But the silver is for real. Just a personal story. My wife's mother passed away about a year and a half ago. Got a little bit of an inheritance, and she says, "What do I do with the money?" I said, "Buy silver," and that was at $12. And her sister went out and bought cars and Lexuses and vacations and restaurant meals and has lost probably 70% of it. And my wife's investment has doubled just in 14 months. And
that's funny because I get those stories, John. I get those stories all the time. I'm thinking of a friend right now in Florida who started following the YouTube channel. And 2 years ago, it was the same thing. They were actually the stereotypical intelligent. I don't know how to say this without getting in trouble. Intelligent homeowner. When they bought a $400,000 condo and then in Florida, and all of a sudden they started selling for $80,000 in their neighborhood, they decided to strategically default, take their monthly payments, put the cash into silver, and they were getting into it at $9-10 an ounce back in late 2008, and the exact same story, John. She had family members who were blowing money on what they thought was cheap real estate when the $300,000 condo was selling for $180,000, and she was like, "No, I'll just rent. I'll tough it out. I'll rent. I'll put my what was a mortgage payment into precious metals." And now their friends and family who invested poorly in a $180,000 condo that's worth now $70,000, and she's sitting on silver that in a lot of cases has tripled.
And it's tangible, it's portable. If you need to leave the country, you can take it with you or liquidate it and send it. But I'm going to ask Desk and you a question here, because I used to make a lot of money for my clients and myself through leverage in real estate during the 80s and 90s and until I retired. And when the inflation bug is there, and it's here in the metals, the way to make real big money is through leverage. So I'm going to ask you guys, and so you can tell the audience out there, they're like, well, God, I don't have $50,000 to go out and buy, or $60,000 to go out and buy 2,000 ounces of silver. But yes, they do. If you can borrow $60,000, if you've got the credit and the wherewithal to borrow $60,000 or even $45,000 or $30,000, go out and buy 1,000 ounces of silver. $30,000 will probably cost you, if you did a short-term loan, probably $600-700 a month. Heck, it's going up that much every month. And do you agree with that, Dex, or not? I mean, if we could tell all these people in Charlie's audiences, no matter what, buy as much silver as you can, because that's the next inflation wave we have to wait to ride. And if I can borrow $30,000 and it costs me $500 a month, so in 12 months it costs me $6,000. Silver's going to $60 in the next 12 months.
Right, and Dex, I want to throw that to you because you've been talking for the last month and a half. Get into the silver and gold, but you haven't talked about leverage at all.
Okay, let's talk about that. All right.
I'm going to listen off air because I enjoy you guys so much.
Well,
thanks, John. I appreciate the call.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, to be quite honest with you guys, I'm a trader first. All right. I'm not an economist. I'm not a licensed professional. So don't take what I say too seriously. Take it with a grain of salt, and always check with your financial advisor, because I'm not a registered financial advisor. So according to the law, I really don't know what I'm talking about. All right, now that we got that out of the way, what you should do is you should take every ounce of fiat currency that you have, and you should start buying gold, silver, platinum, palladium, copper. I don't care what it is. If it's a precious metal, absolutely. They're even talking about starting a diamond contract that you can trade. I'm serious. Trust me. That's where all the action is. As a trader, I have to go with what market is on fire. And if I can get in that market, I want to get in that market. I don't care what it is. And right now, it's the precious metals. They're going up. They're the new real estate. So why not buy it? We don't have to like it. We don't have to love it. But we do need to trade these markets. And those are markets, and we're traders, so I say trade them. I think the call is absolutely right. When real estate was booming, we said buy real estate. If you don't want to buy real estate, buy real estate ETFs or whatever. That's no longer the case. Now it's all about precious metals. And when crude oil starts to explode, it's going to be about crude oil, the black gold. So, yeah, buy gold, buy the black gold when that time comes, and buy whatever you can to increase the value to give you more purchasing power. Absolutely.
Isn't there certain ways to buy it? I mean, can't you go out and buy options and just leverage?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
Yes, Black Ops Trading, which is the trading room that I have. So I want to say what's up to all my pirates out there, and all the pirates listening, all the pirates in the chat room. At Black Ops Trading, we do trade in and out of the precious metals and other securities. We buy call options and put options. We do it all. And yes, you can use leverage. Now, for some people, they don't have necessarily the amount of risk capital to go in and do real damage. So that your caller asked about leverage. Let me explain to you how you can use the leverage to beef up your portfolio, if you will. All right. A couple things you can do. The first thing you can do is you can open up a trading account, which is something that I've been talking about for, forever. And that is going to put you in the game, okay? When you open up a traditional equities trading account, what happens is most nice, respectable firms will automatically give you a margin account, which means you get a 2-to-1 ratio. You can buy stocks on margin. You're not opening a non-margin account. Open a margin account. That's your first thing you can do, all right? Then that way you can buy and sell, like the GLD, which is the gold ETF, or the AGQ, which is the ultra silver ETF, or SLV, which is the regular silver ETF, and you can start buying those. If you don't have enough money to buy the shares outright, you can go into the options market and buy call options on those things. You can even buy what is called LEAPs, which is long-term options that go as far as a year or more out. So you can do stuff like that, okay? Another thing you can do is you can open up an account where you can trade futures contracts, and that will open up a door for you that most people are not even aware of. Because when you open up a futures trading account, you can fill out the paperwork right on the spot when you open the account, letting the firm know that you're one of those people who would like to actually take delivery. Yes, some of you out there under the sound of my voice actually have that kind of money where you can actually trade in and out of futures contracts and actually take delivery on the precious metals. So, what does that mean? Well, for example, one silver futures contract controls 5,000 ounces of silver, and you can have that delivered right to your front door. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Now, there's a caveat to that. You got to be careful because laws are changing, rules are changing. Traditionally speaking, when you have a futures account, when you fill out the paperwork saying that you're one of those individuals from time to time who would like to take delivery, you have to pay storage fees and interest and all that other good stuff and taxes and stuff and delivery fees and surcharges and money from the store in the warehouse until delivery date, all that good stuff, right? And for those of you who are a little bit more independently wealthy, you can afford it and that it doesn't bother you. Well, they have gotten hip to that, okay? Now, this goes into the conspiracy category, so put on your seatbelts. They have now made some of the contracts what is called non-deliverable. I repeat, some of the precious metal contracts are non-deliverable, meaning that you cannot take delivery. They don't care how rich you are, you will not be able to take delivery because they don't allow it. That's something new. That has not always been the case. Just so you know, FYI. All right.
And they're also aren't they also boosting up requirements for contract from $10,000 to $20,000, something you were talking about.
That's just margin. That's just margin. But you can still
okay.
trade the mini contracts. Now you won't be able to take delivery on the mini contract, but you can still trade it. Because again,
right.
The overall goal is to build up enough money or wealth so that you can afford to buy the actual physicals. All right. In other words, you're leveraging what you have to get what you don't have. Okay.
Dex, are you suggesting to any of the guys that follow you with Black Ops trading to take profit and then turn it into physical?
I have guys that actually are doing that and have been doing that. Yes. See, that's the beauty of the Black Ops trading room. Not only do you get buy and sell signals every day, but from time to time, I'll go in there and I'll pull out money from the market right in front of everybody and show them exactly how it's done. Not fake money, not a paper trade account, real accounts, real money. I've done it right in front of them, live. Here's how it's done. There's no buy today, but I'm going to show you how to go in and pimp these markets. I mean, think about it. We've been pimped for how long now? So
You've been pimping a long time. All right, hold on a minute. Don't talk. Hold on a sec. I want you to give. We got about 40 seconds before the music starts playing, and I want you to give where people can get a hold of you at who might not have heard of the Vulcan Report or Black Ops Trading. Go.
All right, cool. YouTube channel is PulseScan72. That's PulseScan and number 7 and number 2. That's number 1. Go ahead and subscribe to the videos. You'll get all my videos as they upload and all that stuff. The next way to get at me is to send me an email at pulsecan72@gmail.com. And we can talk in private. The next thing to do is come over to the Black Ops Trading Room, and the way to get onto that trading room, because it is private, is to shoot me over an email, and we can talk, and we can see if we can get you set up in the trading room.
Dex, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you bumping up the schedule for me. I hope you and your lovely wife and your kids have a great Christmas weekend. I'll be back tomorrow. We will do a modified open topic Friday. Jeff Rentz is coming up next.